In September this year, I'm headed back up to Scapa to dive the remains of the German high seas fleet of World War I. And I found myself wondering if open circuit or the rebreather was the best way to go, which gave me the best dive profile, the lowest cost, or made any other difference. I've already been fortunate enough to dive Scapa a few times before, so at least I know what to expect. For example, Karlsruhe, the light cruiser, sits in 27 metres of water, but my average dive on it has been at 24 metres. Bremer, Dresden and Köln, 34 metres. The shallowest of the battleships, Kronprinz Wilhelm, has taken me down to 37 metres, whilst König and Markgraf are deeper still at 42 metres. I'm joining a standard recreational trip, which means my dive time will be around 60 minutes for each dive. So using Bullman with gradient factors of 60-80, I can create some comparative dive profiles for those 24, 34 and 42 metre depths. I can also go on to have a look at costs by using the actual prices charged on my dive boat, and that will assume I get a fresh fill for open circuit on every dive, and for the rebreather I will use air diluent. I will have an oxygen fill each day, and my softener line will last me for 3 dives. And this is what that 24 metre dive will actually look like. In effect, there's no real difference at all between open circuit and closed circuit. Yeah, it looks like you do a little bit less deco on the rebreather, but in reality those differences are going to vanish. The dive times, the dive profiles are going to be exactly the same. And the costs aren't very much different either. Go down to 34 metres and the same pattern applies, and that's not really too surprising because the rebreather effectively simply delivers the optimum nitrox mix at any depth. So as long as I choose the right nitrox mix for my open circuit kit, well, then I can match the rebreather, both in terms of time and in terms of cost. But those dives are a square profile, whereas in reality most dives are actually multi-level. Something like this maybe, going down to the maximum depth at the start of the dive and then stepping up through the dive itself. And on a dive like that, the rebreather does start to show an improvement over open circuit. But even here, it's not a massive difference on an individual dive. Yeah, maybe over the course of a week those minutes will add up and make a significant difference, but the reality is that you're still looking at something which is very similar, open circuit compared with the rebreather. Go deeper still, down to 44 metres, and there's still no real difference between open circuit and closed circuit, either in terms of dive profile or in terms of cost. But the rebreather does have one definite advantage. I can afford to use Trimix as the diluent, and what that means is that I will see more, I will remember more, I will enjoy the dive more. And I can do that because a rebreather diluent fill of Trimix will cost me £13. I could of course put Trimix in an open circuit kit, but that will cost me £210 per dive, and that's way too much. So, no real difference in terms of dive time or cost between open circuit and rebreather. So what about any other factors? Well, open circuit is simple and reliable. It's what we all learn to dive on. You put the gas in, you analyse the gas, and that's it. You take it diving. Whereas for the rebreather, it is more complicated. You do need to spend some time between dives keeping the kit working properly. That said, the rebreather is quieter underwater, and it also helps to keep me a bit warmer, which is very welcome in British waters. So is there a clear winner? I don't think so, not really. The rebreather might be just a little better, but the difference between the two isn't going to make the difference between a good and a bad trip to Scapa.